Good morning and welcome to AARP and OLLI Mason's Boomer and Beyond Academy 2021. I am Trudy Murata, an AARP volunteer community ambassador with AARP Virginia, and I will be your host for today's presentations. With more than 1 million members in Virginia, AARP is the largest organization working on behalf of people age 50 and older and their families in the Commonwealth. AARP Virginia is here to make your voice heard and provide information and resources on the issues that matter and to connect you with fun and local opportunities. We provide valuable educational, informational, and fun resources, things like webinars, teletown halls, discounts, and more. And when it's safe to host in-person events, you will be invited to attend. In the meantime, we thank you for embracing this technology and will continue to offer our programs virtually. I encourage you to visit our website at your convenience at aarp.org, Virginia, where we share great information on local resources and events. Again, that is aarp.org/VA. Thank you for joining us here this morning. We have a great program planned for you. I'd like to thank the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at George Mason University for continuing to partner with us on this event. And now let me introduce Jennifer Disano, Executive Director of OLLI Mason, to share a bit about OLLI Mason and the wonderful programs that they offer. Welcome, Jennifer.
Greetings, everyone, and thank you, Trudy, for that wonderful introduction. Welcome to the AARP Boomer Academy in collaboration with the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at George Mason University. Today, I was asked to provide some research examples to show the good news of the impact of lifelong learning. And I'll go over some of the research and then tell you a bit about OLLI and how involvement in our program can provide many opportunities for positive enrichment and healthy living. A few years ago, the National Osher Lifelong Learning Institute's annual conference featured a keynote speaker, Nobel Prize-winning cell biologist Elizabeth H. Blackburn. Dr. Blackburn identified relationships between telomeres and how our bodies age. Telomeres are the cells that are located at the ends of chromosomes. Think of a shoelace with a protective plastic cap. Telomeres are that protective plastic cap and are responsible for protecting the chromosome against fraying. If the telomere gets short and worn off, the DNA sends a signal to the cell to die off. Telomeres shorten with every cell division owing to the so-called end replication problem. I won't get into the science of that, but if you are interested in learning more specific details, you can pick up Dr. Blackburn's book, The Telomere Effect, published in 2018 by Grand Central Publishing. Dr. Blackburn says, as we age, telomeres shorten and cells start to die, wrinkles emerge, hair turns gray, and individuals are at increased risks of getting sick. She explains humans have a health span, which is the number of years of your life where you are free of disease and you're healthy and productive and enjoying daily life. And a disease span, which is the time of life spent feeling old and sick and eventually dying. In her research, she found stressful life events and the way we respond to these events can change the condition of one's telomeres. In some chronically stressed individuals, telomeres are frayed and shorter. Blackburn suggests that attitudes matter in response to stress. She says if a negative thinker associates with stress, the threat stress response can have a negative effect on telomeres. However, approaching stress or stressful situations as a challenge to be tackled will create a spike in biological responses to protect telomeres. So Blackburn found, as she says, we have control over the way we age, all the way down to our cells. According to research from the University of California, San Francisco, in a small pilot study written up in The Lancet in 2013, Research showed for the first time that changes in diet, exercise, stress management, and social support may result in longer telomeres, the parts of chromosomes that affect aging. So how does lifelong learning relate to this science? Lifelong learning opportunities, such as those you would find at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at George Mason University, offer many of the positive influencers of positive living and increased telomere health, such as socialization, volunteering, critical thinking, learning new skills, helping others, sharing ideas, and fun social engagement. OLLI Mason has provided first-rate cultural, educational, and social programs for up to 1,200 Northern Virginia active retirees who are intellectually curious since 1991. OLLI serves as a lifeline to so many looking for better quality of life in retirement and for the ability to age in place. Last year, OLLI presented over 600 courses on virtually every topic of interest from archaeology to zoology. And as a member-run entity, our volunteers design the program, teach, and lead the organization, providing endless new opportunities for personal empowerment and growth. Along with traditional classes, OLLI offers opportunities to explore interests and volunteer through clubs. OLLI clubs have donated countless professional services to the university and wider community. The OLLI Photo Club donated their services for the past 7 years to the USO Warrior Family Center at Fort Belvoir to provide portraits for military members and families. The OLLI Players, our theatrical club, has dedicated countless hours to the community, performing every year in short plays, skits, and original works at senior residences, churches, and community centers throughout Fairfax County. The OLLI Computer Club offers area residents an outlet to solve computer issues and learn how to use their devices. And there are many, many clubs you can get involved with at OLLI. OLLI members are often a willing demographic for research undertaken at the university. In recent years, professors and students from the Vocational School of Engineering, the College of Science, and the Center for the Advancement of Well-Being have interviewed or examined OLLI members on aspects relating to cognitive abilities, mobility, and wellness. The data collected has been used to develop research papers, engineering designs, and wellness protocols. Additionally, OLLI members are also eager to give back to Mason in terms of mentoring and tutoring services. OLLI members jump at opportunities to serve in career fairs and as goodwill ambassadors, including hosting Mason International students for Thanksgiving and other occasions. If there is an advisory board or a board at Mason, most likely there is an OLLI member involved. And every year, OLLI members fund scholarships for students in the Mason departments that send teachers to our classrooms. They also have donated to the Office of Military Services and Mason libraries. Overall, members have given over $250,000 to Mason students and departments for the last 3 decades. OLLI has something for everyone and is a rich resource to give back to the community, to enjoy learning new things, to find friends, and to share ideas. If you're looking for a healthy challenge to keep your telomeres in good shape, join OLLI today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Before we get started with the retirement planning section of our Boomer Academy today, I do want to point out that we will be able to take questions during the course of this. If you would put your questions in the Q&A or the chat box, I will be monitoring both, and we will do questions and answers at the end of each of the presentations. The first question that I've received, and the reason why I'm adding these comments, is that this will be recorded and the participants will receive an email follow-up within the next few days with a link to this recording if you'd like to rewatch or share with friends. To that end, AARP believes that preparing for our financial future is all about achieving the financial milestones that make sense for us. Even if these milestones are modest, Each one makes our financial future bright and more secure. So we applaud you for deciding to spend some time with us here this morning, thinking about and planning for your financial future. Retirement planning doesn't have to be intimidating. In this morning's presentation, you will learn some tips for determining if you are on track and learn practical strategies to help you achieve retirement peace of mind. To that end, I am delighted to be joined this morning by Pamela Sam. Like me, Pam is also an AARP Virginia Community Ambassador, and we are fortunate to have her on our team. Pam is a chartered retirement planning counselor, and she has spent the past 20 years helping people improve their personal and financial wealth through solid financial life planning. While Pam is indeed a financial planning professional, her role here this morning is to provide general guidance, not specific advice or recommendations, but hopefully the information she will cover today and the resources shared will help you make informed decisions about your financial future. So with that, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Pamela Sam. Pam, the platform and the screen is yours.
So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll go ahead and get started with that. There we go. Yay. Thanks you guys for being patient. As Trudy said, my name is Pamela Sam and I am a volunteer community ambassador with AARP. None of that shenanigans that happened before. So hopefully we can move past that. I look forward to really helping you facilitate today's conversation about retirement planning. But before we get started there, really just to go through some disclaimers, this presentation, of course, is intended to provide general guidance, not specific legal or financial advice. Individual circumstances may differ and really should be taken into consideration before acting. As Trudy mentioned, I am a financial expert, but I cannot provide any specific recommendations or advice in this session, but hopefully the information that we cover today really will help you make informed decisions about your financial future. Make sure you consult a professional for advice regarding your personal situation as well. So before that, let's take a look at our today's agenda. As I said before, welcome to Retirement Planning AARP presentation. I'm going to share information today for the most important aspects of your financial health as you desire or your own financial goals, set your priorities, prepare for retirement, and then take steps to secure your future. I'm going to provide you information that will really help you recognize the steps that you do need to take to prepare for retirement, no matter where you are with your finances. Remember, personal finances is just that. It's personal. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. And as such, it's best to really consult, like I said before, professionals to make a plan. And the best way to do that is really take some of the tips and strategies I'll be sharing today. Now, AARP does provide a number of resources for you to refer to as you take your financial journey. And we're going to cover many of those in this presentation today. So in this session, you're going to learn ways to determine how much money you would need to retire compared to how much you need to be on track and how much you need to save by retirement. And then really strategies to bridge the gap if you discover that there is a gap in your situation. So we're going to review that as well. I know all of us have been on Zoom probably for the last 18 months, but just a few things, just in case, for Zoom presentations. Everybody is currently on mute, but if you do have any questions or comments, the Q&A box, just click on that and then you can answer your question, or if you have a comment. Trudy will be fielding those questions as we go along, looking at them, but we will not answer those until the end of the presentation. We won't be using the raise hand feature at all in that. And then really just be cautious and limit the personal information that you do share in the group, because this is a group setting and we don't want you to share any personal information. This is also a judgment-free zone. So no question is a bad question. So just make sure that we are judgment-free in this situation. So let's take a quick look at, really just kind of warming up on a Saturday morning. I got warmed up with this little faux pas, so I'm already warmed up and jazzed for you. But really thinking about today's topic, first step is really to visualize the kind of retirement that you want. Do you want to focus on a hobby? You want to travel? You want to volunteer? Spend times with grandkids or even your older children, whatever the case may be. Even start a second act or a business. So what I would encourage you to do, maybe for the next few seconds, is write down a few words that come to mind when you think about your overall retirement goals. And then we'll just kind of, shout a little bit of those out over the next few minutes to do that in the Q&A. So if you can put in the Q&A, first thing that comes to your mind when you think about your retirement goals. We got any takers this morning?
We do. And I'm delighted to see the first one. It is, I want to join OLLI and be a lifelong learner.
Okay, that's good.
The second one is travel.
Okay.
Live in comfort, travel, give back to others, volunteer, and travel.
Okay. Travel is always at the top of everybody's list that I hear all the time. And then really, those are some excellent ideas, and really thank you very much. It is a valuable exercise that we just went through, even over the last couple of seconds that we did that. But I encourage you after today's session really to do some more reflecting, really consider writing down your choices and then really ranking them in order of importance, being as specific as possible. I want to be on a sandy beach and this is what the weather's going to be like that day, whatever. Really is try to flesh it out as much as you can. This really helps you to determine what matters the most to you and whether you'll need the same, less, or even possibly more money to support your lifestyle in retirement. Now, thank you very much for your participation. So now what we're going to do is really look at the first topic, is determining what you will need for retirement. And that's usually the top question everybody always has, is how much money will I really need to retire? There's been a variety of numbers that are thrown out. I need $1 million, I need 1.5, I need 2. Whatever the case may be, that number is specific to everybody, individual. So that number may be different. But the question is that we need to ask ourselves is where, what do we need to do? And then how are we going to get there? So what we're going to do is really walk through some of the steps in calculating how much money you will need for retirement in this section. And we'll present a hypothetical couple that we're going to meet that's doing the same work so that you can refer to them as an example as you begin to do your own calculations. And then really at the end of this portion of the presentation, you'll be able to identify some of the resources that you do need to allow for you to calculate your own projected retirement needs. You will be using helpful and free tools that are available on AARP, aarp.org/money. For this section is the AARP Retirement Calculator. And we're going to be putting links throughout this presentation so you can have those to refer to as well. And I believe everybody got a copy of the presentation, so a lot of the links should be in that presentation as well. And on the handout, so to speak. So after today's session, I really encourage you to really use the tool, the retirement planning tools, to do your own calculations. So I talked about the hypothetical couple. So here we are. We're going to meet Pat and Ronnie. The presentation is going to follow Pat, age 55, and then Ronnie, age 52, who have been legally married for 20 years. And as they calculate their retirement needs, what they're going to do is really look at what they have so far. So Pat works full-time and earns $60,000 as a salary per year. And then Ronnie also works full-time with a salary of $50,000 per year. They both plan to retire at age 67, and they'll be saving about 8%. That's about $8,800 of their income per year for retirement right now. Now, they've decided to sit down together to figure out how much money they will need to retire. And the first calculation they will make is their current situation or their current retirement savings. That is how much money that they currently have in their retirement funds. And we're going to review that together. Now let's look at where those numbers have come from in the calculations. So as a common source of retirement income for many Americans is going to be your retirement plan through your employer. Now, some may have already have some of these accounts that I am outlining today, while others you may not. But don't worry about it if you don't have all of the numbers or some of these accounts that we'll be going over today. The most common kinds of employer-sponsored retirement savings plans these days are your 401k, your 403b. If there's any government workers that are on the presentation today, that would be your TSP, anything that is related to your employer-sponsored plan. Now, are often referred to or described to as your defined contribution plans, which means this is the type of retirement savings plans that employees contribute a fixed portion of their income to fund their retirement. It is defined as a contribution plan because the onus is on the employees to make decisions and then take action on those particular accounts. Now, they decide whether to enroll in the plan unless automatically enrolled, which is increasingly common practice, particularly among larger employers. And then employees really decide where to enroll, how to enroll, and then really how much they want to contribute to these plans from their paycheck, and then how to invest those plans in your portfolio. Now, with these types of accounts in your current portfolio, you really need to encourage, I really suggest and encourage you to maximize the matching funds for your employer if it's available. A lot of employers do match funds, so at least get what the employers are matching. Now, the less common type of employer-sponsored accounts are traditional pensions, what we call defined benefit plans. This is where your employer is going to fund the plans. And once you have met the requirements, you're using a number of years, generally, typically about 5 years in terms of your vesting for your pension when you retire. So then after that, you're going to receive a specific or defined benefit amount each month in retirement for as long as you live. So those are your pension plans. There are a few employers that are still covering that. And like I said, if there are government workers that are on the presentation today, that would be your FERS, that would be your FERS plan, your Federal Employee Retirement Plan, and or your CSRS plan, your Civil Service Retirement. Those are your pension plans. We will discuss non-employer sponsored plan accounts such as IRAs or Roth IRAs more in depth in a later portion of the presentation. But if you do currently have them, you want to make sure that you include those in the amounts of the other types of accounts that we will be reviewing in your calculations to see how much money that you currently have in retirement. But not only that, what we're going to do is really look at your Social Security benefits, because that's going to be a key part of your calculations in your retirement income analysis. So for many of us, Social Security is really most important part of our retirement picture. So think of your retirement as a three-legged stool. The three-legged stool, you would have a Social Security leg, you will have a pension leg if you have one of those, and you would have basically self-funding or accounts that you have saved up on your own. So a lot of people are only working with one or maybe two legs on that three-legged stool, which really makes it a little lopsided. But let's talk a little bit about Social Security. Deciding when to claim is a big decision when you are looking at Social Security. The amount of Social Security we will collect is over the lifespan, really will depend on your lifetime earnings. Usually the highest income over the last 35 years. So people have probably heard of 40 quarters or 40 years or something like that. They're going to knock out 5 of those years. So they're not going to go back to when you worked at the ice cream shop when you were 16 or something like that. That was low income. So they're not going to knock out that, and they're going to take the highest income over the 35 years. Now, the age you start collecting and the number of years you collect of your benefit really depends on how you're going to claim it and when. And that's a very, very personal, important decision that you need to make. Now, if you're married and both of you earn a benefit, Social Security will compare your own benefit to the amount that you collect against your spouse's record, and then really pay you out the higher of the two. So if you have a discrepancy in income in your household and your spouse may be making a little bit more than you, Social Security is going to compare who has the highest benefit. Maybe the spousal benefit will be bigger than your benefit on your own. If you do qualify for Social Security by paying Social Security tax while you're earning while you're working. So you see FICA, that's a lot of your Social Security payments, and that's how that is done out of your check. Now, you and your spouse will need to work and pay Social Security tax for at least 10 years in order to be eligible to secure Social Security. There are also survivor benefits, spousal benefits, disability benefits as related to Social Security, all of which have their own all qualification criteria. But really, please refer to the AARP Social Security Resource Center. There's a ton of information in there about Social Security. For more information, we'll put the link again in the chat. And also, I believe you do have that in your household. So let's look at how or why it is important to wait. Now, there's 62, and there's your full retirement age, and then there's delayed credit. So that's what I'm going to talk about to you right now. You want to review and help you make the most solid and best decision for yourself in regards to your Social Security benefits. Now, when you claim Social Security, you have choices that will impact the benefit, as I explained before in the previous slide. One option is to wait and claim in order to increase your monthly benefits. If you do receive your full benefit at your normal or full retirement age, and that's usually somewhere between 66 and 67, depending on the year you were born. So depending on your birth year. You can choose to receive benefits as early as age 62, but that benefit is going to be reduced generally between 25 and 30%, depending on your full retirement age for the basically for the rest of your life. So if you do choose to receive early, you're going to have quite a bit of a reduction for that. So it is very important to really consider how that decision is going to impact not only you, but really how it's going to impact your family and not just your own benefits. So if there's survivor benefits and you took an earlier claim on your Social Security, then your survivor benefit will be even smaller. So really take into consideration when you claim for Social Security. Now, if you can delay your benefits beyond the full retirement age, this increases your benefit amount to 8% per year, up to age 70. So it does pay to wait. So if we can look at this in our scenario, you see in the purple and the pink that those are going to be your higher numbers if you pass your full retirement age. So 68, 69, 70, that's where you're seeing those higher benefits amount. If you haven't done it already, I really suggest you create your personal My Social Security account. That can be done on ssa.gov/my account to view your personalized benefit record. They used to send out those green and white statements. They don't do that as much. They're really trying to save on postage. So they're really encouraging people to go to the website and create an account, username, password, then you get access to your account. So from my SSA account, you will be able to look at your expected payout, apply for benefits, also monitor Social Security news updates on what's happening in the Social Security world as well. So the link again, like I said, will be in the chat and on your handout, so you will have that. Now, deciding when to claim, like I said, is a very personal decision that only you can make. Remember, though, that it's going to impact your family. So really looking at your claiming age isn't just about the retirement benefit, it's also about the survivor benefit portion that you will receive that will outlive you. So make sure you are very cognizant about that decision. Now let's look at Pat and Ronnie and what they will receive in Social Security. So Pat and Ronnie, they're going to retire at 67. That's considered their full retirement age through the Social Security Administration, based on their number of years, of which they were born. And when they take their Social Security payouts, beginning at age 67, they're going to receive $2,157 for Pat, and then $1,890 for Ronnie per month. However, they also have done the calculations to see how much they would make if they waited to claim the benefits at age 70, and that's the max year that you can take Social Security delayed credits would be age 70. And they found that if they waited just 3 years, they were able to take their Social Security payouts beginning at age 70. Pat was going to receive $2,675, and then Ronnie was able to receive $2,344 per month. And that's an increase of about 24% of their benefit amount. So it really does pay to wait just those 3 years for a 24% increase. Now, you can figure out the calculations for yourself through the AARP Social Security calculator. Again, that can be found at aarp.org/Social Security benefits. Again, handout, and we'll put those links in the chat for you. You also want to consider your lifestyle when you start doing your calculations for your retirement savings. So how much are you actually going to spend in retirement? You know, that's always the key question is how much am I going to need? But then how much will I need to spend, or what will my lifestyle look like? Will I spend more, or are you going to stay the same, or are you going to start living more modestly, really to stretch out those dollars even further? Because we do have to include inflation in those calculations. The AARP retirement calculator makes an educated guess about current lifestyle by starting with the current income, deducting any employment and income taxes, and subtracting that amount from your savings. And then what you're left with is your current lifestyle figure. The calculator does assume that in retirement, you will need about 85% of this figure to live close to the same lifestyle that you're living now, because expenses typically tend to be a little bit lower for retirees. There are really 3 areas that you need to consider when you're looking at retirement. I call them kind of the 3 phases of your retirement. The first phase is going to be your go-go years. So the first part of retirement is going to be go-go. You want to travel, as we saw in some of what people put in the Q&A. So you may be spending a little bit more in those go-go years. Then phase 2, you'll have the slow-go years. You're going to start to slow down a little bit. You've done all the travel. You're staying at home a little bit more. So you may need to live off of less. And then you have the no-go years, which is the later part of your retirement. Generally, you're aging in this phase, and you may end up spending a little bit more, generally in medical costs, Medicare, long-term care, those sort of things. So kind of think of your retirement lifestyle in those 3 phases: go-go, slow-go, no-go, okay? This amount really will determine your spending goals, and then the adjustments for inflation each year. Usually about 2.5% to 3% as an inflation indicator is what the calculator looks at. So you can go on the calculator and adjust the lifestyle areas of your calculator to select the retirement lifestyle that is lower, higher, or even the same for expenses today. So if you want to look at a more moderate lifestyle, maybe assume about a 75% of your current income. A more extravagant lifestyle is maybe 95%. And then the calculator will allow you to really look at specific percentages as it applies to your current lifestyle. So you can go up and down on the scale to see where you need to be in terms of percentages. But really determine how much you will spend in retirement. Make sure that your account for all potential expenses. Be very conservative in your estimates, because it's better to have too much than not enough. So when you look at the calculator, be conservative when you look at your expenses. Now, Pat and Ronnie have compiled all of their numbers, and it's easy to really review where they stand and when it comes to meeting their retirement goals there. Now, Pat currently has $100,000 in the 401k, Ronnie $75,000 in a 403b. Neither of them will receive the pension, that defined benefit plan we talked about in the previous slides. At full retirement age, Pat is going to receive that $2,157 a month from Social Security, Ronnie the $1,890 per month for Social Security, and then they plan to live a similar lifestyle in retirement, which is really based on research to estimate probably about 75% of their current income. They use the retirement calculator through AARP to see how retirement savings spanned over the years. And then if we can see in the dark green, that's their net income after savings and taxes. And then the light green is their Social Security benefits. And the gray area represents the funds that they're going to draw from their retirement savings plans, their 401k, their 403b, anything that they have set aside, maybe IRAs. And in the red, if we can see, that it's going to represent the shortfall that they're going to have each year in retirement if they don't do anything. So if Pat and Ronnie has that shortfall beginning at age 82, that is the same time that Pat and Ronnie's retirement savings, represented in the gray, are projected to start running out. So in the calculation, you're going to see Pat and Ronnie has a shortfall of about $38,177.21 if they don't make any adjustments or changes to their retirement savings before they retire. So how do they bridge the gap? That's what we're going to look at next, is really exploring how to fill in and how to fill in the gaps for your retirement. Now, if you do see a gap, you know, when what you need and what you have, it may be feeling overwhelmed. A lot of times people see the gap and they're like, really, how am I going to fill this in? But we're going to review some strategies with you this morning. However, know that you're not alone in this calculation. It's never too late to start saving or change course, change the ship around, make some adjustments and changes in order to really bridge that gap. There are many strategies that we can do between now and when you need those that you currently have, and then where you hope to be. So in the next section, we'll discuss steps that you may want to consider when you are bridging the gap. Now, before we go into strategies, let's take a moment to consider another exercise. You know, you guys have been listening to me probably for the last 30 minutes, so just kind of get you guys engaged again. But really consider a time where you wanted to achieve a goal that you set for yourself. It may have been a big purchase or a completion of a project or accomplishment. So, you know, what sorts of things did you plan for that were required to reach the goal, or what made it successful in order to achieve the goal? So let's take another few minutes and really jot down some answers on maybe a big goal that you had. How did you fill in the gaps, or what was the planning rules required, and then what made it successful? So let's take a few minutes and see if we get some takers on this exercise to warm you guys up a little bit. Anything coming through, Trudy?
No.
No, everybody's shy this morning.
Everybody's being quiet this morning.
Quiet. Oh, people need to get their coffee and get up, maybe do some jumping jacks.
Hold on.
So if nobody's going to share, I can share. You know, I just got this beautiful deck done, which, you know, I am really enjoying it now. You know, I was out drinking a smoothie the other day and just loving life. But before that, it was really took, how do we get the planning done? You know, how do we get it financed? How are we going to design it? What's the time frame for this? And then really during that planning process, you know, had a wonderful deck company that worked with us. But planning that project, I had to go through the design phase, then I'm getting all of the permits and the licenses, had to go through HOA, which took a long time, but ultimately have a beautiful deck that was successful. So really looking at all of those things that you do need to plan, just like when you're doing your retirement planning, it's going to be what's required, how am I going to reach the goal, how am I going to be successful in achieving the goal. So it's the same steps that you would take in any goals that you want to achieve for yourself. You have to have a plan, you have to have the steps in order to get there, and then hopefully on the other end, you'll be successful in that. So
Pam, we did get a couple of comments that I just want to share with you.
Okay.
One is that someone is going to eat at home more often.
Okay.
But you know, during quarantine, that's about all I've been doing is eating at home. Also, moving monthly distributions into different accounts.
Okay.
What you just said about writing things down, we have one comment saying, I lost weight by writing everything I ate down, and it helped me to stay on track. And that's true. Writing anything down helps to stay on track.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cut out restaurants and stay with absolute necessities.
Yes, exactly.
Let me move over to Q&A real quick and just see what else we have there. putting on an addition to the house, building a house in sunny Florida for when I do retire, bought a condo on the beach. I want to know where that condo is. I would like to come visit. Planned a trip to Mexico, had to research, then act on preparation, including the budget. Oh, I like this one. When I was in college, I wanted to go to law school. I saved money from work. I said when I had saved $10,000, I would apply to law school. It took over 3 years, but I did it. Congratulations.
Awesome. Those are excellent examples.
All right, yeah,
Like to do some planning.
I'll give it back to you, Pam.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much, Trudy. Those are really excellent examples on really, putting the goals into place and then following them and tracking them. So really, I thank you all for your participation in that. So that's what you really do when you're looking at retirement planning, is if there's a gap or if there's a goal that you want to achieve, how much you're going to need, what are the steps I need to do, and then really how I'm going to be successful at it. So thank you very much for that. Now, remember, these behaviors are qualities that can be transferred, again, like I said, over to money, savings goals, and debt reduction strategies as well. So speaking of that, really looking at how we're going to strengthen your financial foundation. So a great place to start with the goal of bridging your future retirement gap is really by strengthening your current financial foundation. No matter your age or your situation, or unplanned expenses and debts can make it difficult to manage and may jeopardize even a more carefully made retirement plan. So in the next section, we'll introduce ways to budget, plan for emergencies, reduce the debt, and these steps can really help you stay on track to meet your retirement goals, regardless of the surprises that life may throw at you. But we know life throws a lot at you. Everyone here probably knows what a budget is and might even know how to create one. But I'd like to emphasize the importance of budgeting and how it relates to your retirement planning. This is that dreaded B word that a lot of people just don't want to hear sometimes, but we know it is efficient and it really helps you achieve your goals. Your ability to save more for retirement is really dependent on your ability to manage your money well. Budgeting can create more margin. That is the difference between your monthly income and your expenses, and then really lower your debt and save is a great first step that you will need. Now, there are many sneaky ways that money disappears each month. I'm sure most people on this call are probably saying, sometimes you have more money than month, or more month than money, that sort of thing happens. And you go, where did all of this money go? So really tracking your expenses and looking at your budget. Now, to name a few, there could be late fees, it can be banking fees, subscriptions that you haven't canceled, extras on your phone or cable accounts that you no longer need. By really carefully monitoring your income and expenses, you can free up hundreds of dollars each month by doing so. So for example, at the end of each year, or actually at the beginning of each year, I usually do a year in review. So in January, I go through what happened, what did I spend money on the year before? And I go through a lot on my budget to see if there's extra subscriptions that I don't use. So I did that January of this year, and I was able to free up about $100 of just stuff that I had, music subscriptions or magazine subscriptions, stuff that I just wasn't even using. But it's $5 here, $9 here, whatever the case may be, it all adds up. So I was able to, shed $100 out of my monthly budget just by canceling stuff that I wasn't using. So you want to go through those exercises as well. Your budget will really help you plan for your expenses and save or really save in advance. AARP does offer a free online tool to really help you set a budget using your the AARP home budget calculator. We're going to put the link again in the chat, and you do have it in your handout as well. Remember, a budget is an awareness tool, and it is really that guide as planning and your guide and planning for retirement later. You may prefer to do a different method system for budgeting, such as a spreadsheet or even a paper and pencil record. My mom's still old school, and she still writes everything down on a piece of paper, back an envelope. That's how she does it. But as long as it gets done, no matter how what tools you use, make sure you take a look and review your budget. Now let's look at emergency or financial emergency preparedness. Just 39%, that's 39% of Americans would not be able to cover a $1,000 emergency if something unexpected happens. You know, that is a huge number of people that don't know where $1,000 is going to come from for an emergency. Now, here's the issue. Now, when we aren't prepared, what we do is more likely we're going to pull out plastic to cover the emergencies, which will likely not help to achieve your overall goals if you now have debt that you have to service. For most people, the best place for emergency funds are your no fee or low fee bank account with no withdrawal penalties. If possible, consider setting up automatic options where you save automatically on a month-to-month basis, maybe out of your direct deposit. You set up a recurring automatic transfer out of your paycheck to a direct deposit to one of these accounts. Really consider putting a certain percentage directly into that emergency savings rather than that regular account. So you have your checking, you have your savings, maybe setting aside a certain percentage per month out of your check or direct deposit into one of these accounts. Now, financial planners like myself, we really typically recommend about 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses in an emergency fund. For most people, that may be an intimidating amount. But I always say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So even if you need to start small, just simply starting an emergency fund with whatever you have over time is going to add up regularly. So again, you want to look at that AARP home budget calculator if you don't have your own resources right now on calculating your budget. Now, if you're concerned about debt, you're not alone because a lot of us have it. Share of households led by older Americans that carry debt has really risen over the past 2 decades. So what's the best way to get those balances down to zero once and for all? Let's talk a little bit about how we're going to plug the leak. You can't lower your debt if you keep adding on to it. So we talked about the emergency fund in the previous slide, where if you had the emergency fund, maybe you weren't relying on the debt and pulling out the plastic. So for one, that may be a tactic. So one tactic is to take your credit cards out of your wallet altogether, or your wallet or your purse. So if you don't have it at the ready, you may not use it. Also, you may want to remove those one-click payments and stored credit card information from those online sites that you shop at. This will help avoid temptation. I know I eliminated that one out of my Amazon account because it just made it way too easy, especially last year. Just an aside, I had a huge shoe fetish last year, and I was just double clicking on the thing, and I was buying tons of shoes. So hopefully it's out of my system, and I don't have that anymore. But if you take off the one click, it just really avoids the temptation, and that really help you stick with your budget as you created it by eliminating some of these things out of that. So taking out your credit card out of your wallet or purse. Removing the one click or the stored information will really be beneficial. Now, 2 popular debt reduction strategies to consider. I know maybe a lot of people may have heard it. It's called debt snowball or debt avalanche. Now, the snowball method really looks at eliminating the smallest debts first, while the avalanche approach is really looking at the highest priority for eliminating debt with the highest interest rates. Simply put, the snowball method is really looking at to pay off the debts in order from the smallest to the largest, which will allow you to gain momentum as you pay off your debts. And then the avalanche method, on the other hand, works the other way. It's really reducing the amount of interest that you pay on your debt towards really working towards that zero balance. Now, with the avalanche method, you may pay off debt with the highest interest rates first, but using the avalanche method is preferred by most economists simply because, of course, over time, it's going to save you money on interest. However, since the efforts are more long-term, you really can't see the needle move a whole lot. It may be harder to stay motivated by using the avalanche method. So you may want to use the snowball to knock out maybe a few of those smaller debts. But whatever you choose, really make sure you stick with it to see the best debt reduction strategies in that. Now, AARP does also have a resource for this. It's the AARP Money Map. Again, link in the chat, and you have it in your handout. That may be a way to take a look at how to reduce some of your debt. Now let's look at how we need to increase the retirement savings. So we saw Pat and Ronnie, they had a little bit of a gap, but how do we increase our retirement savings? So the importance of budgeting and debt reduction, and now what we're going to look at is really some resources for longer term savings. Now let's explore our workplace options. Be sure that you get the maximum on your matching funds at any of your employer sponsored plans. So if there's matching available, make sure you at least get the match. So if your employer may offer the match as long as you contribute that minimum percentage. So at least make sure you're doing the minimum to get the match. You may want to start contributing like I said, the minimum to get the match on that. Through your employer plan, you also want to set retirement contributions to an automatic increase as you, let's say, get raises or get promotions. This is a certain percentage per year. So this will allow you to do and increase your retirement contributions as your salary increase. Like I said, it's called auto escalation. And really just look and see if it's available in your 401k plan. Some plan sponsors may or may not have it, but at least it's worth a shot to take a look at the auto escalation. It can be done really contacting your employer sponsored retirement account administrator or your plan sponsor to do the auto escalation. It's also prudent to really review your portfolio mix. You may have several options such as target date funds. Those are ones that will adjust the portfolio mix to a little more less aggressive or a more conservative strategy as you get closer to retirement age. Or you do a moderate or aggressive conservative portfolio based on your risk tolerance for your retirement plans, whatever the case may be there. You want to consider your employer-sponsored retirement plan administrator to learn more about your investment options that are available in your 401k plan. If you do need direct advice, make sure you do consult a financial advisor or your financial advisor to do so. The AARP does have an interview tool for advisors. If you want, it's called the Interview an Advisor tool. It's a free resource really to help you understand the financial advisor credentials, how they're compensated, tips on really how to start that conversation with an advisor. The tool can be available on your smartphone, tablet, computer, and like I said, we will provide that link for you so you'll have that. Now, finally, if you are over age 50 and over, you may be able to take advantage of the catch-up contribution. That's additional money that can be deposited into your account for an extra $6,500 in your 401k or your 403bs or your TSP, whatever retirement plan that you have on that. It does incrementally change each year. Right now it is $6,500. Sometimes it goes up in $500 increments. Just make sure you know the maximum or the catch-up contribution amount in any given year. Now, what I'm going to explore with you now is really some of those non-employer sponsored plans. So those are your IRAs and your Roth IRAs. They're individual retirement account options that you can explore in addition to, or instead of your employer-sponsored plans. Be sure, of course, to speak to a financial professional about the decisions to do either or both. So first up, let's talk about your Roth IRA. A Roth IRA is an after-tax individual retirement account, though there are income limits that can be phased out of eligibility. You have to consult the tax table to see where that is in income. But a great feature of the Roth is that you pay no tax on your gains when you take out qualified withdrawals. So basically tax-free. You can withdraw Roth contributions without penalty or monies or taxes as long as the money comes from the contributions and not the earnings. There's also a no required minimum distributions at age 72, contrary to the individual or traditional IRA. Now, with the traditional IRA, you get tax deferral on your money. You contribute, which meaning it's not taxed when you deposit it, but you pay tax on your contributions and gains when you take the money out. Generally speaking, you're going to pay a tax penalty if you withdraw money before 59 and a half. So that's the magic number when you're dealing with your retirement plans, 59 and a half. After that, the 10% early withdrawal penalty is eliminated and you can take withdrawals and you just pay income tax on the withdrawals. These plans also have the catch-up contributions. This one is an extra $1,000 into a Roth and or traditional if you're over age 50 with that. Either option, much like the employer-sponsored plan, you want to review your portfolio mix and you want to consult a professional as needed to make sure you are optimizing your retirement plan, your IRAs and your Roth IRAs with that portfolio mix. Again, AARP.org/money will give you more information for that. Now, when you're preparing yourself for retirement and employing strategies to bridge the gap on enough, there's other ways to really cut back. Now, these strategies focus on cutting back and making lifestyle changes to meet your retirement needs. So exploring additional ways to bridge the gap to fund it. Question is, when you retire is an important one. So generally, the longer you can work, the more money that you have coming into retirement. And is also working longer will require fewer, fewer retirement years that you need to finance through. So allowing you to work more may also increase your retirement savings, and then could lead also to higher Social Security benefits. Remember, it does pay to wait. So if you retire a little bit later, maybe waiting till age 70 to get the maximum Social Security benefit. Working longer also increases your pension benefits if you have access to a pension, if you do have that. Now, if it's possible, working longer either through full-time employment, part-time, maybe gig work as a potential strategy to leverage. You want to visit aarp.org/work for more information and resources on this particular topic as well, because there may be some additional resources that you can do in this area. Another way to deal with the gap could be retirement funds is really to downsize. First, moving if you want to move, make sure you weigh a move. Make careful comparison. If you own a house, you want to stay put, your current house may have major repairs. By contrast, if you move, there could be fix-up costs on old house, moving expenses. If the move takes you from a house to an apartment, you do have to consider that rent payments will gradually go up over time. But remember, if you had an old house or you bought a new one, there's taxes, insurance, and upkeep also have risen as well, especially in this environment where we are now. House prices are increasing, and where are people, if they sell their house, where are they really going to live? It may be some discrepancy there. The second area to look at, it may be liquidating. Consider selling items online is a great way to get started. But remember to be realistic about your selling prices. There are used goods after all. Whichever app that you use, there's tons of apps out there where you can sell your goods and your basically your old things that you have in your house. But you want to protect your personal information. You want to communicate only through the app. When you're doing so, don't give out any email addresses, phone numbers, addresses, any personal information. If you do choose to meet a buyer, if you're selling an item, make sure you do it safely, either a public place, coffee shop, police station, any other public place, to make sure that you're going to be safe. So additional strategies that for bridging the gap also can be found on AARP, Ace Your Retirement as well. So you can get that link in addition. So let's revisit Pat and Ronnie's retirement picture. So after reviewing their projected retirement income, if they did not do anything, remember they had that gap of $38,177, and don't forget the 21 cents, if they didn't make any changes to their retirement plan before their retirement. So what they decided to do is they took some of the strategies that we used in this presentation. They created the budget, allowing them to see the difference between their monthly income and their expenses, which is called that margin that I talked about before. Their margin allowed them to build that emergency savings account, which prevented them from accumulating additional debt and then really tapping into their retirement savings to manage unplanned expenses. Next, they decided to tackle their credit card debt using the avalanche method. So that's where they started with the highest interest rates down to the lowest interest rate. So they went to listed their balances all the way from the highest to the lowest, and then they started paying off the highest interest rate cards first. And then Pat and Ronnie found that it was best to build their emergency fund first. And then what they did is allocate the margin each month to paying off the credit card debt. So they took that margin and then they threw it at the credit card debt. Finally, Pat and Ronnie decided that 67 wasn't their number. So they decided to retire at age 70. Just those 3 extra years of working allowed them to have now a surplus of $163, $840.32. That's a difference of about $125,663.11 from that shortfall that they had. So they've decided to employ some of the strategies. Now, of course, the strategies that we talked about today won't work for every situation, but Pat and Ronnie were very well pleased with their planning that paid off, and they're really very optimistic about their retirement plan. So the calculator can be found again, aarp.org/retirement calculator, where you can do your own calculations like Pat and Ronnie did. But after careful thought of building your retirement and building your nest egg, you want to also protect your assets. And one of the important aspects of that is really fraud and scams. Just the other day, I had a friend tell me she got so many calls on, this is the Social Security Administration. We need your Social Security number to give you payments or whatever. It's out there and it's rampant, the fraud and scams. So AARP has a wealth of sources to empower you in this area. You want to visit the AARP Fraud Watch Network to learn more about the different scams that are out there, because it's one every day. There's a different scam. Of course, the link to aarp.org/fraud can be found in your handout, and we're going to put that link in the chat. You can even sign up for Watchdog Alerts. This is going to notify you, like I said, of the latest scams and fraud tactics that are out there, because they come at you fast and furious. So you want to know what's out there in this area. You also, if you suspect a loved one is a victim of a scam, you want to call the free helpline, and the number is also listed in your handout, and we can, it's actually on this slide, that 877-908-3360 number. If you suspect your a loved one is part of a scam. My mother's 90. Several years ago, she, fell victim to one of those scams. So they called her on the phone. We need your check account information. You won something, blah, blah, blah. So it happens. So make sure we protect our loved ones in this instance. The AARP Fraud Watch Network is a free resource to all. With AARP as a partner, you really learn how to be proactive in spotting these scams, get guidance from the fraud specialist. If you've been targeted yourself, and feel more secure knowing that you do have advocates from a federal, state, and local level to protect consumers and enforce the laws that are out there. But be diligent when it comes to the frauds and protecting your assets. So in conclusion, we're going to go ahead and wrap up, because I know we have some limited time here, but I want to make sure we allow enough time for questions. Now, remember, we want to reevaluate your savings, review your plan at least once a year. If you do have a partner or spouse, be sure that both are privy to all of the household financial information. We don't want any hiding as you start planning your retirement. You have to make sure that you have all the resources that are available and everybody's on the same page. So make sure you share that. What we have reviewed today, just to recap, we've talked about ways to determine how much money you will need for retirement compared to how much that you have currently on track to have saved for retirement. And then we talked about the strategies to bridge the gap if you discover that you do have a gap as well. So what I'm going to do now is have Trudy open up the chat or the Q&A, and let's get some questions answered.
I'm back. Okay. Pam, I'd like to start with this question. And that is, what if you are already retired? We market this program as retirement planning, but it seems to me a lot of the points you cover are things individuals could review or re-review even if they are already retired. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, yes, and it's ever so important, especially with retirement budgets, is that inflation is going to come in at some point. So making sure you are still on track for a longer term, even though you're retired, you still have maybe 10, 15, 20 years left. So making sure your assets are still outpacing inflation is an ongoing thing that you want to do throughout your retirement.
Very good. The next question is, can you convert a 403B fund to a Roth after retirement?
You can, but I would say the tax man cometh. So if you do the conversion, you have to pay the tax before it goes into a Roth. So it's going to be a taxable event for the conversion. So if you're okay with that, that's fine. Just know that that is going to be a taxable event. It's best to try to pay the taxes out of an outside account and not the one that you're transferring into the Roth to try to preserve the assets, but it will be a taxable event for the conversion.
Okay. If I decide to work part-time, what's the max I can earn?
Is it for Social Security?
I believe so.
Yeah. It changes every year. I believe it's maybe 40, 27. I'm not going to quote it exact. If you go to the Social Security Administrator, SSA.gov, it will show you, well, let me step back. Is the person past full retirement age already? If we can get a clarification.
Okay. All right. I'll look.
Okay, let's circle back around to that one.
I'll circle back to that one.
Yes.
Okay. There are a number of both apps and online resource tools that can help with budgeting.
Mhm.
Are those good apps, good online resources, and what would you need to be cautious about before using that for budgeting purposes?
Mhm. Well, anything that's going to require a lot of personal information, be aware that a lot of the apps that are out there will want access to basically a read only, but access to having your bank accounts into what they call kind of a portal or a budget app so they can analyze where your money's going. So if you're not very comfortable with that, you may want to go old school and do a spreadsheet or, pencil paper because a lot of the apps are going to require access to bank account information. Like I said, not transactional, but just read only so they can start seeing, so you can see where your money's going on a month-to-month basis as well. So, but those are some of the things that you want to take a look at when you're determining which app that you want to use for budgeting.
Okay. And Pam, we did both say at the beginning of this presentation that we cannot offer personal advice.
Correct.
But I'm going to ask this question and then have you advise me as well as our guest as to whether this is falls on the personal side or not. The question is, or the statement is, I received Social Security. My wife in March hit her full retirement age, and we want to wait until age 70, but Social Security just sent us a statement with a January 2nd, 1954 cutoff as being obsolete. Does, okay,
no.
Not being a financial planner,
Yes.
I'm not sure I understand that. Do you, and can we answer it?
Yes. High overview of it. So what the Social Security Administration is referring to is basically the I think it's I can't remember the name exactly, and it's escaping me, but it's basically where you activate it and then you suspend it. It's file and suspend. That's what it is. File and suspend. And they eliminated that at some point based on when you were born or what your age is. So the strategy that the question may have been asking is that they tried to do that strategy, but it no longer exists with the Social Security Administration. So that's where they would stand, is that Social Security said, we used to be able to do this, but now you missed the cutoff based on your age. You're not eligible to employ this particular strategy no longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been asked to see if you can talk about the backdoor Roth IRA plans.
Okay. Yeah. So that is similar. That's a similar question to the conversion that was asked before. The backdoor Roth, that's basically what that's considered, is that you transfer, you pay the tax now on a conversion in order to get into a Roth, because a lot of times the Roth will have income limits or that you phase out of. So this is a way to basically get into a Roth without having, basically circumventing the income limits. That's why they call it a backdoor Roth, is that you do the conversion on a traditional IRA, pay the tax now, and then get it into a tax-free vehicle, such as the Roth. Just to let you know that there is, with this new tax proposed plan that's in the Biden administration, not to make it political, that may be one of the things that are that may be off the table fairly soon in terms of a backdoor Roth, because that's in the proposed tax plan. Hasn't been passed yet, but just be aware that that may be something that could be eliminated in the future.
Okay. Pam, we're getting a couple of questions that I think relate more to Social Security than specifically retirement planning. So I'm going to ask the question, but I'm also going to say that as part of our Boomer Academy, we do have another speaker and another set of dates available on Tuesday, September 21st at 7 p.m. Our subject will be on the Boomer Academy, Social Security, Understanding Your Benefits. And also on Thursday, September 23rd, also at 7 p.m., we have another presenter doing Medicare 101, helping to understand your Medicare benefits. And you can go to aarp.org, Virginia, community events. Amber, you might need to help me with putting that website up to register for the two upcoming Boomer events. Again, on Tuesday, September 21st, 7 p.m. Social Security. Thursday, September 23rd at 7 p.m. on Medicare. But you do need to register for those programs, similar to how you registered for this Boomer Academy program as well. That being said, here's the question, Pam. Tell me if you can answer or if we need to ask them to join us next week.
Okay.
The question is, does the cost of living, COLA, Social Security increase the amount you are currently receiving, or is your amount the same forever without ever getting the COLA?
No, the cost of living adjustment is based on your benefit amount, and then whatever cost of living adjustment that they do make for that. So it does increase over time, just to try to outpace inflation. Last time they did one, I believe it was 1.6% COLA. So just look out for that, annually. Sometimes it stays stagnant. I believe it's been 1.6 COLA for a couple of years now. But that would be the cost of living adjustment based on that. And then your benefit amount would increase by the COLA amount.
Okay, very good. Thank you. How long do you have to be married for your spouse to be able to receive the other higher Social Security income?
Let's see. I was thinking spousal. That question was about spousal benefits from divorce. So that's 10 years. I believe it's 3 years for the other amount. But definitely want to clarify that with the Social Security Administration with that. But it's a shorter period of time than the divorced spousal benefit amount.
Okay. How easy is it to combine 401ks? I have 3. I'm trying to consolidate.
Mm-hmm. I would assume trying to consolidate into an IRA. Fairly simple. You just need to go back to your, if it's an old employer, you just need to go back to the old employer to obtain what they call rollover paperwork. Well, first you need to set up an IRA at an institution, wherever you want to do that, and then roll over, get the rollover paperwork from the old providers to funnel into the new IRA.
Okay. Pam, the examples that we use in this presentation indicate that the couple is married.
Mhm.
Are those numbers still accurate, and are the calculations the same for single individuals?
Yes, you would just put in your amount and that double. So the retirement calculator, if you're single, you just put in your resource numbers. The calculator will allow for husband and wife, but if you're single, you would just put in your data.
Okay, and I'm getting a couple of other questions that are related to the cost of living increases. Are those questions, do you want to address them here, Pam, or am I correct in suggesting that they might want to join us for this Social Security presentation?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely want to do the Social Security presentation because there's tons of information in there, more detailed. But I'll try to fill the questions that you currently have related to Social Security.
All right. The first question is, are COLAs made yearly?
That will depend on basically, I don't know if it's a congressional thing, but they will let you know. So it's not done every year. They will announce, yes, Social Security now has this point percentage of COLA, so it may not occur every year.
Okay. Let me scroll through. A question about what about Roth 401ks, question mark.
Okay.
Can you,
if it's available in your employer sponsored plan, it's a way to get into a Roth without having the income limits again. Just make sure that you are aware that it is after tax dollars. So if you want basically pre-tax type of benefit, just know how it's going to affect your overall paycheck before you do the Roth 401k, because it's after tax. It's not going to give you the pre-tax similar to your traditional 401k. So just make sure you know how that's going to work out from your net income.
okay. And I see for those individuals that want to join us Tuesday and Thursday of next week, the correct website address to register for that is aarp.org/Boomer Academy. Pam, in the beginning of your presentation, you referred to types of professionals. Are there professionals other than financial planners that one can use as a resource?
If you want to use, maybe a tax accountant could help you with some things as well. Planners are probably the best to look at kind of the holistic part of your planning. So I would probably suggest probably more of a planner, but you can also consult a tax advisor for some of these questions as well, because a lot of it deals with how retirement plans are taxed. So they may be able to assist as well.
Okay, in general, do you like how I qualify
yes,
my
I like
questions?
It. I like it.
Are annuities a good idea?
In general, that's kind of a hard question to ask, because I'm going to say it depends on each individual. Maybe an annuity strategy is better for some and not others. So that is really, I know you had asked in general, but that's probably a personal decision that does need to consult a financial professional to see what's the best for that particular situation.
Okay. Again, you tell me if you can answer this question. What is the Social Security offset, and is it impacted by military or federal government pensions?
The Social Security offset, definitely they're going to, I know more than likely they're going to address that in Tuesday's call. But what the offset is that if you are either military and or federal government and you did not pay into the Social Security Administration through, this is kind of the older plan, the CSRS, is that there could be an offset portion of how much you will get from Social Security and how much your pension. So it's going to coordinate both of those numbers together. So you want to check with if you are federal government and or military, OPM has the offset calculations, and they can show you basically how each of those will be impacted, but it integrates together.
Okay. Do you have any resources with regard to the best advisors or resources for individuals that have questions about long-term care?
Mm-hmm. Some financial advisors will provide education and resources for long-term care. A lot of insurance agents who also have licenses in long-term care, they could be able to provide resources as well. If that person, if they're in the state of Virginia, actually any state, they can go to the insurance of that particular state, basically insurance commission, I believe, and then they can find out more information about long-term care and then who are carriers and who are agents in that particular state.
Okay. As a government employee, whoops, hold on. Something popped up and covered my question. Okay. There we go. As a government employee, apologize about that. As a government employee, can I roll a former 401k into a TSP?
You can, yes.
Okay. And John, I apologize. I cannot give you an answer, and I'm sure Pam cannot, to the meaning of life. And I do believe, I'm double checking everything, Pam. I believe that is the end of our questions. Do you have any other closing comments you'd like to make?
Are we doing our survey or no? With this one?
I don't have a survey here other than they will receive a survey in the email.
Yep. And it's in the chat box. I'll post it in the chat box again.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And then these are just some of the other resources if people want to connect with us as well.
Very good. Pam, this has been absolutely great and very informative.
Yeah.
Now we're going to do a short break, but don't leave us now because we have another program that starts at 10:45. So grab your second cup of coffee or your cup of tea and join us for Moving Towards Well-Being. That will start at 10:45, and there will be some additional resources on the screen while we take a break. Pam, thank you again. You know, even I learned something from listening to each of your presentations. I enjoy co-hosting with you. I hope I wasn't too wild and crazy. I do have one other comment before we go, and that is this session being recorded? And the answer is yes. And you will receive a link to that recording and a follow-up email within the next few days. Pam, thank you. Audience, thank you, but don't leave us quite yet. Join us back here at 10:45 for Moving Towards Well-Being and the rest of our Boomer Academy. Short break, and we'll be back soon. Thank you. And welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is AARP, excuse me, and OLLI Mason's Boomer and Beyond Academy 2021. And this is the second part of our program. Thank you for joining us today. In our earlier program, we put you on the right path for your financial life planning. Now let's move towards your physical and psychological well-being with this relaxing and energizing session. Julia, go ahead and unmute. Our next presenter is Julia Morelli. Julia has been teaching yoga, qigong, stress management, and mindfulness practices for 30 years. Her work at George Mason University and her consulting practice focus on the connection between the mind, body, and conflict. Julia recently became Senior Fellow with George Mason Center for the Advancement of Well-Being. Julia, we are so delighted to have you here with us this morning, and the screen and the platform are yours.
Sounds very good. Thank you ever so much. And I will share my screen here in just a moment. Okay, so welcome everybody. I am thrilled to be here. This is very exciting. So this is moving toward well-being. So first we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about what different aspects of well-being entail. And those are the domains of well-being. And then we're going to be moving into physical practices. So a few things about that before we get started. One is that you can do, they're intended to be standing. If you choose to do some of them seated, feel free to do that. The main thing is for you to pay attention to who you are and what's okay for your body. So for instance, during some of the movements, I'll be asking you to raise your arms up overhead. If you know your right shoulder is not good with that, then you might do something like this. So feel free to modify, adapt. And this is all about what's called somatic awareness. So what I'm encouraging you to do as part of your well-being, and this goes beyond physical movement. Somatic awareness is something that you want to develop to work with every aspect of your well-being, because it may be that there are times when you're getting tense about something and you need to pay attention to things such as that. So the domains of well-being are physical. So these are things like how much do we get up and move? How much sleep are we getting? What is the quality of our sleep? Because it's not uncommon for people to have sleep habits that are not particularly good for them. So again, be aware of what your sleep habits are. And then also what you're eating, what your nutrition is, what your tendency might be. For instance, for myself, I know one of the things that's not good for me to do is to get too hungry. So if I get overly hungry, what winds up happening is I have a tendency to eat fast and maybe eat things that are not the best for me. So developing an awareness of that. Another domain of well-being is what's happening in your head. So that's also your emotions and your mental well-being. As we all know, with the pandemic, there have been many, many challenges around different domains of well-being. So this is really about being aware of them and finding ways that you can improve them. So trying to do that also without judgment. So social well-being is really about how we interact with each other. It's the relationships that we have, keeping in mind that some relationships are some that we choose. And then there are other relationships that are part of who we are. So for instance, sometimes there can be challenges related to family or people you work with or neighbors or what have you. So it's knowing where your strong relationships are and then trying to foster them. And that also helps with a sense of being a part of something. So being a part of a community and engagement. One of my favorite terms is knowing people who are in my tribe. So what that means is people who are in my tribe are people with whom I resonate. We have tendencies to share some of the same values, share some of the same interests, but it's also about extending that sense of community so that we're not excluding people with whom we may not agree or with whom we have challenges. So community is there to support you, but it's also important to try to keep connection with the broader community, even though sometimes that may be more difficult for us and more challenging. It can help our society generally, can also help you to find patience and a sense of tolerance. And AARP and OLLI, as you know, have been spending a good bit of effort on ensuring that you understand what financial well-being is and what are the various paths to being able to do that. And then the last one is career, and that's what you do and what's important to you. So in this society, there tends to be an inclination to go towards answering the question, what do you do as what's your career? And it may be something that you've, you may be retired, you may not be retired, but think about what you do as a whole part of who you are. So for me, career means a lot more than just the job that I'm currently getting paid to do. It's bigger and beyond that. And while I'm talking, by the way, feel free to get up and stretch or do whatever you want, because we're spending an awful lot of time online, and being able to take care of ourselves in that process really is critical. So those domains of well-being, or that taxonomy, came from the Center for the Advancement of Well-being at George Mason University. One of the resources, of the links that you have in the material that you got, is to the center. There are tons of resources there, and this is a distilled version of what it takes to actually have a life of well-being. So again, that support, those relationships are very important, but feeling alive, that sense of vitality, being excited about things, and part of that is also your physical well-being. So think about vitality in a range of ways. And then when you're thinking about your purpose, one of the things that I tend to think we don't spend enough time doing is taking a look at what are our values. We know that we have them. And the question is, what are they and how are they showing up in the way that we put ourselves into the world, with the things that we do, the things that we think, the ways that we engage. So it's about meaningful contributions. And then resilience is really about the whole notion of being able to bounce back. And yes, there are some tendencies that individuals have towards being able to be more resilient or not. It's also a skill that you can learn. And the way that you learn that skill is to understand, what is it that helps feed your soul? What is it that nourishes you? What do you need? So just as in the physical practices that we're going to be doing, some of them may resonate with you more than others. You may be, a strong runner. That's what you do. You play tennis. Those are not the things that I do. So that doesn't make them any better or worse, but it's knowing what's important for you in order to be able to manage stress and build that sense of resilience. And engagement is about knowing what your strengths are. And oftentimes we don't necessarily think about what strengths we have as individuals. So this is really about thinking about, and this is a really good exercise to do. Take some time, not right now, but after this program, or when you feel like it's a good time to do it, is sit down and come up with 3 or 4 people and ask them the question, what do you bring into the room, so to speak? In other words, what are your qualities? What are your characteristics? And it's important to be able to hear those, because oftentimes we don't really know and value our own strengths and our own characteristics. So that's a really good exercise to do that. And being able to engage in helping others is an important practice for well-being. There's a lot of research on gratitude. So gratitude has to do with not just thinking about others and having gratitude for others, but it's also being able to express that. And one of the ways that I like to do it is I do handwritten cards, because that's one of the things that I love to do. I use colorful pens when I do it because that makes me happy. So whatever form of contribution to others that you can make, that's something that's also going to help with your sense of resilience. And gratitude also relates to, what is it that I am grateful for? Because even during really challenging times, there are things that we can be grateful for. So there's a short video that we're going to be watching, and this is by Dan Harris. This link and one to another video that we're not going to be showing, those are in the materials as well. And this relates to mindfulness as a superpower. One of the things that he talks about is mindfulness and meditation, almost as if they're interchangeable, and there are some distinctions between the two of them. Meditation tends to be focusing on one thing and doing that without judgment. And frequently we think about meditation as something that we do sitting and not moving and trying to empty our head of thoughts. Well, the reality is you can't empty your head of thoughts because they're constantly coming in. It's sometimes more challenging for people to do, for instance, a seated meditation than it is a moving meditation. And we're going to be doing some practices. I refer to them as mindful movements. Qigong, Tai Chi, yoga, and so forth are all, they're meditative physical practices that require mindfulness in the sense that you need to be aware of what's happening as you're doing them. So oftentimes I find that mindfulness combined with some type of activity, and that may just be focusing on my breath, can be much more powerful than trying to sit and meditate. I also find that the more I do the physical practices that are meditative, the easier it is for me to do the seated meditation where I may just be focusing on my breath and so forth. So the reason that mindfulness matters is that it gives us the opportunity to develop an awareness of what's happening with ourselves. And it's about what's happening in your mind, but it's also about what's happening in your body. So be aware that what happens in your head affects your body. So for instance, there's, I started getting into a lot of this because I had a horse who was abused named Donan. And Donan would stand there with his legs close together when he was scared. And that's a lot like us doing the holding ourselves and being essentially protective. So it's being aware that if you change your physical body, it can affect your mind. And when you change what's happening in your mind, it also can affect your body. So we are going to now take a look at the video.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. So I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, This is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
Okay, so again, that's one of my favorite videos because I think he does such a lovely job of explaining what it is and why it's important. So this is another video. We're not going to watch this one, but I recommend it highly. And the reason is that the perspective that we have and the way that we view the world and view interactions and view relationships and things that happen to us and around us are very important. So these 5 chairs that Louise Evans talks about in her video help demonstrate she tells this beautiful story and walks through what each of the 5 chairs means. So the chair that we're sitting in, or the view that we're taking of what's happening, often goes back to which of the chairs are we sitting in and who is it that we're observing and what's their relationship with us. So for instance, if there's somebody that we don't know who reminds us of somebody that we don't like and we see them doing something, then we may go into the judgmental and focus on the other person in the form of an attack. It may be something that you just keep in your head, but be aware that what you're doing is you're judging that person and why you're judging that person. So observing what happens in your head is very important. The self-doubt, the yellow chair, is one that many of us have challenges with. So this has to do with being uncertain of ourselves. And this is really a version, if you will, of attacking ourselves. So again, try to be aware of that and respond to yourself with kindness and not with judgment. So that's what mindfulness is all about, is being able to respond with a sense of compassion. The middle chair, if you will, the green one, is about really noticing. So that's being able to essentially hit the pause button and observe what's going on, take it in, and trying to suspend judgment. And then we move into becoming more self-aware. So that's being aware of our reactions, our responses, what's happening in our head, what's happening in our mind. And then the 5th one is the one about connection, community. This is about the engagement with others, having that social and community engagement, if you will. That's really what that purple chair is all about. So it's about being able to respond empathetically. So that's about being able to understand from the other person's point of view, which we can never perfectly do, but we can work on it and try to move in that direction. So again, recommend highly the video. I think it's about 18 minutes. And then there are some resources. And with that, you have copies of these. So I will stop sharing. And I will go ahead and I'm going to step back. I'm going to invite you to join me. I'm aware that you can't see the lower part of my body. There's, I can describe what's happening down there. Again, pay attention to what works for you. And any given day, your body may feel a bit different. You might wake up, for instance, my right knee has been giving me some challenges. Some days it's more difficult than others. So listen to what's good for you. So we're going to start by putting the heel of the hand on the navel and then placing the center of the other hand directly on top of it. Standing nice and tall, feet are about hip distance, maybe a little wider apart. Let the face be nice and soft and relaxed. And if you want to, you can either close your eyes or lower your lids some. And visualize strength and a strong foundation coming up from the earth. So it's rising up through the soles of your feet, and that strength is coming up through the calves and the thighs and into the area that's below the hands and inside the body just a little bit. So in the Qigong practice that I do, it's known as the Dantian. This is where our center of gravity is. And the reason that your hands are here is to bring awareness to that space and allow your breath to flow down into that area. Oftentimes we're focused on keeping our stomachs in, and this is really about just allowing the breath to expand naturally. And then let the top or the crown of the head reach up towards the sky, the heavens, the universe, whatever you want to call it. Let the top of the head extend upward. Let the shoulders relax down. And notice the heart. Allow the heart to be open and full. And then gently open the eyes, relax the hands down. As I do this practice, I'm going to turn sideways. You can stay forward. Inhale, bring your arms up in front of you so the wrists are relaxed. Gently let them float down. So you're inhaling, shoulders, everything is nice and relaxed here. Exhale, let them float down. Again, up to about heart or shoulder height, soften and come down. So having the breath move with the body can be a really powerful way to let things settle down. And we're going to change this up a little bit. So inhale, bring your arms up again as high as it's okay for you, and then bring them out to the side. So in yoga, this is known as Hastasana, cactus pose. Shoulders are relaxed, fingertips are spread. Inhale, take your arms back so you're really expanding through the front of the body. And as you exhale, focus on letting go through the back of the body. So literally as you exhale, let things press out through the back of the body that you don't need. Inhale, invite in whatever deliciousness you need. It might be patience, it might be compassion, it might be a sense of strength, whatever that happens to be. Here you're again pressing out, getting rid of things that aren't useful, expanding and opening up. And then we're going to do that one more time. Press. And just notice how that feels. Open up, expand, and then take your arms out to the side and gently let them float down. Feet are a little bit wider than hip distance apart. Knees are gently bent. Torso is nice and long. And we're going to start doing a gentle twist. So I'm actually tapping the back of my body. The reason for that is that's the area of the kidneys, and it's known as also giving a kidney massage. You can start the twist a little bit more. The knees are bent to protect the knees. So you're mainly moving the torso. And this is also moving the spine in one of the 6 directions that help feed it. And then slow that down. That's a common warm up for any of the Tai Chi and Qigong practices. And just notice how you feel even after doing that little bit. Inhale, exhale, let your chin drop down to your chest and keep the shoulders nice and open. Relax the muscles in the back of the neck. Let the weight of the head extend down. Inhale, lift the head up. The next time we're going to take the head back, but not very far. It's really more about opening up the throat. So inhale, tilt the head up. The head goes back just a little bit, but particularly if you've got upper back issues or neck issues, don't go back too far. Inhale, come back to center. Let the breath come in. One ear goes to one shoulder, doesn't matter which one, because we are going to balance it out by going to the other side. Notice how that feels and try to soften and relax. Inhale, come up, and then exhale, opposite ear to opposite shoulder. Try to let everything soften once again. One side may feel different from the other. That's not uncommon. Exhale, drop the chin to the chest. We're very slowly going to do a circle with the head. Again, not taking it back too far. You might hear some gentle noises. Those are okay. very slowly, mindfully, and keep the shoulders and the face nice and gentle. And then pause when you get to the front because we don't want to get dizzy. And then go the opposite direction. The reason I like the neck movements is a lot of times we don't move our heads in that many directions, and we tend to inhale, lift up. We tend to move our bodies instead of moving our heads. So this time you're going to take your arms up again into that cactus pose. You're going to keep them straight out across the chest. Knees are relaxed. You're going to turn from the waist up and then begin to look over that back arm to the extent that you can. And when you can't go any further, maybe extend your gaze back a little bit more. Try to keep the shoulders relaxed. Bring the head back to center, bring the arms back to center. We're going to go the other direction. So let everything relax for a moment and then exhale, turn again at the waist, keep the knees forward, hips forward, and then gently look over that back arm and that shoulder, extending the gaze back a little bit further. Head comes back to center, arms come back to center. Go ahead and release down. This next one is known as cat and cow in yoga. It can be done hands and knees. It can also be done in a chair. We're going to do it standing. So I am shifting my hips back. So my hips are over my heels. The bend in the knees is not great, but it's a bit, the hips are wide, our feet are wider than hip distance apart, hands on the knees, but you want to keep them lightly on there so you're not dropping down. As you inhale, let an arch or a curve come to your lower spine, your head, your heart lift. And as you exhale, let your elbows go out wide. As your navel goes back towards the spine, you're rounding forward. So your arms going out wide, let more of an expanse happen in the back. Inhale, soften the shoulders, straighten the spine. And then once again, continuing with the inhale, let that curve come to the lower back. And then exhale, rounding. So do this with your own breath a few more times. And just let yourself enjoy the deliciousness of the stretch. And again, if something feels like it's too much, then go ahead and back off or modify. Going to do one more, and then we're going to come out of this very slowly. So no rush, but with the spine in neutral, meaning straight, bend the knees deeply. Let the head be the last thing to come up. So you're slowly rolling up. So this helps protect the back. Ever so slowly raise the head up. And then just give that a bit of a shake out. So oftentimes we neglect our fingers. I love to garden and I'm on the computer way too much. So this is particularly good for the hands. So put your palms together so that the fingers are spread nice and wide. And then bring your arms, your hands down so there's a little bit of space between your chest and the thumbs. And then relax shoulders, rotate your thumbs toward the body. So your fingers are coming toward the body. Anytime anything feels like it's getting tight, try to exhale and relax. Bring the fingertips up and then reverse that. If your palms don't come together, do not worry about it. This is about where you are today and not what somebody else can do. And then go ahead and bring them up, interlace the fingers. Notice which pinky is on the outside because that's going to be the direction that you tend to do this. And then go ahead and press the arms down. And then bring the arms up. And once you've brought the arms up, you're going to draw your shoulder blades together. And then exhale, go ahead and push them forward. And then again, notice which pinky's on top, reverse it. So it's going to feel a little weird. That's a good thing. And then take them out in front of you. And then if it's okay for you, go ahead and take them up overhead. If you need to bend the elbows, by all means do that. If you can, press up towards the sky so you're lengthening through the body. Release the shoulders down, bring the hands down, and go ahead and give them a shake out. So it's almost like you're hitting some type of musical instrument. I'm not sure which one it would be. That might be a drum, but it would look a little bit different from that, of course. So balance, this is something that's very important to us, particularly as we age. There's a tendency with our technology to be doing this. So we always want to try to stay as upright as possible. So practice good posture at all times. So for instance, I noticed when I'm driving these days, I tend to be a little bit more rounded. So I've been trying to engage more and trying to keep everything more upright, because otherwise I get into this habit and then it starts to become more fixed. So we're going to do some work with the shoulders, and then we'll move into a balance. So being upright and keeping your vision up is very good. Again, sometimes as we age, my mom had macular degeneration. She would tend to walk like this. What that means is the center of gravity goes from here up to here, and it makes it more likely that you might fall. So there's a lot of incentive to try to keep ourselves upright. Shoulders back, shoulder blades are coming together, come up by the ears and around. So again, this is the technology slump. And then open and expand, bring them up and around. So your arms can become involved with this as well. So just notice, where your body parts are and what they're doing. And then we're going to reverse the direction. So bring the shoulders forward. So I'm actually rounding here, and then lift them up and really expand, open the heart, open the chest. So this can be good for us both physically as well as psychologically. You can do this while you're in a meeting and your video is off. So again, opening with it nice and open, expanding. So you're protecting your lower back by shifting your hips back. So exhaling, coming down, and then inhale, begin to bring the hips forward, straighten up. Always do whatever is going to be best for you. Exhale, rounding. So it's like you're holding a nice big ball, whatever color you want. And then inhale, expand up. And we're going to do that one more time. Exhale, rounding. Come up, bring the arms up. Exhale, and bring the arms down. So for balance, if you want to hold on to something, feel free to do that. It can also potentially be helpful to have your hands on your hips, or maybe have your arms out to the side. Weight on one foot, body is nice and upright. I'm going to go ahead and place my hands on my knees, on my hips. I'm about to raise one knee up. Take it up as high as it's okay for you and circle the ankle. If you can't pick it up, circle the ankle by keeping the foot on the floor and then just rotating the ankle around. Go the opposite direction. So you're moving the foot in a circle here. Put that foot down. And then we're going to switch to the other side. So it might be helpful to think about rooting down in the standing leg. Bring the foot up. If it's just a little off the ground, or if the toes are on the ground, that's okay. And then take the foot in a circle. Or just practicing balancing is a good thing. So you don't even necessarily need to move the foot. And then take the foot around in the other direction. And then this time we're going to work on opening up the hips. Hips tend to get very stuck, especially when we're doing a lot of sitting. So this time I'm going to do it with my arms out. Take the knee up to whatever height is okay for you. And then open it out to the side, touch down, bring it back up. Again, whatever height's good for you is fine. Going to do that one more time on this side. If you fall out of the pose, be gentle with yourself. Know that it happens to all of us, and it's okay. Standing on one foot while you're brushing your teeth, by the way, is a very good way to practice balancing. So again, weight goes onto the other foot, knee comes up. So you're focusing on that center of gravity down by the dantian, lower below the navel. Open the hip up, touch down, bring the knee up, touch down. And we're going to do that one more time. Remember to smile. It also helps, by the way, to do balances in lit spaces that are well lit, because if your vision is reduced, then your balance winds up getting affected. So this next movement is, it's called Clearing the Small Universe. So this is Roger Jonke, who is a Qigong practitioner, very, very small piece of a much bigger practice. Feet are hip distance. Inhale, hands come up to the heart. This time you're going to spread your fingers and isometrically press down. So inhale, relax. Again, this is drawing up from the earth, that sense of nourishment, strength, having a good foundation, and pressing down, rising water. So inhale, bring up to your heart any and everything that you need, and then exhale, press down. So we're going to go 4 directions with this. Inhale, bring the arms up. You're going to go out to the side this time. So this is like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. What am I going to do? You're going to soften, you're going to relax, and you're going to say, I can be flexible. So resilience is also about flexibility, pushing out. This is making space for yourself and inviting in whatever you need, whatever nourishes you, whatever feeds your soul. Exhale, press out. And the next one we're going to do is overhead. Again, if that doesn't work for you, then you can press down, go another direction. Palms are up, reach up towards the sky, the heavens, universe, wherever you get a sense of power, strength. So think about the sunlight, the nourishment, and bring that into the heart. On the exhale, again, palms go up. So this is keeping the sky from falling. Bring it down. And then exhale, push up. And then draw in, again, whatever it is that's going to help you be more resilient and improve your well-being. The last direction, I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing it. And we're going to practice both ways of doing it. I'm going to demonstrate it first. This one's about maintaining boundaries. And when I first learned this, and there was a time when I was really frustrated, I was, just, and it felt like somebody was in my way. I was doing it and I was thinking, oh, this is good about getting somebody out of my space. And then I thought, that's not really how I want to think about this. What I want to think about is what is it that I need and not doing harm to somebody else. So I'll demonstrate to begin with. So this is doing it with power. So if you've got anger, too much energy, this is a good one to get past that. So once again, inhale, soften, and then on exhale, I'm going to push out. Soften and relax, and then I'm going to push out again. And then I'm going to shift it so that I slowly start to do it in a much softer way. So we're going to practice it starting with more force. So, and I'm turned sideways only so you can see me well. Inhale, bring the hands up to the heart. As you exhale, really extend. Soften and relax. As you inhale, you're still bringing in whatever you need. Exhale, pushing away anger, frustration, fear, whatever that happens to be. I'm going to do that one more time. And then we're going to start to soften and relax a bit. So let your shoulders be nice and loose. Let a smile come to your face. Exhale, slowly go out. Come back in. Do that one more time. Boundaries are very important. So that's one that I think I probably use more than the others. It doesn't matter if you only do one direction. It doesn't matter how many times you do it. It's really about softening and relaxing as you come into the heart and then pressing away. So we're going between that sense of being able to be more fluid and and gentle and relaxed, that sense of strength, but it's a quiet strength, and then also having power. So it's really, well-being is about having a balanced life, if you will. And that's one of the reasons why I particularly like that practice. And we're going to end with, this is called gathering chi, or it's gathering energy, it's breath, life force. You can call it whatever you want. Feet are a little wider than hip distance apart. With the breath, let your breath flow naturally. So I'm going to talk about inhale and exhale, so you don't have to do it right when I say it, but we're going to focus on the inhale at one part and the exhale on the other. You may have multiple breaths in there, and that's perfectly fine. So nice and open, hands are soft. Begin with the inhale and picture yourself visualizing as you inhale, bringing in all of those wonderful things, the gifts, the characteristics that you need. Fingers are coming towards each other, and then the palms are going to naturally turn towards the body as they descend down. And then the hands are going to separate a little bit lower than the dantian. So once again, focusing on the in-breath. Breathe out whenever you need to. Let everything relax. And all that you need is descending into your body here. And then let the hands pause a few inches away from the lower abdomen, where you had your hands, but this time they're a few inches away from the body. If you want to, you can close your eyes or not. Nice full breath. And then think of one thing that you're grateful for and keep that with you. You are welcome to join me or not. I have a tendency to use namaste, which this time I'm going to say is bowing the light and curiosity within you. May you thrive. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Julia. I think you and our audience will discover that I am so much more relaxed now than when I started the program. So I'm looking to see whether we have any questions for you. Hold on one second. Let me look. So far, I don't have any questions, but I do have many accolades for you, saying this is an awesome seminar. Great way to start my Saturday. Thank you. Wonderful session. So we are all very much in appreciation for you accepting the invitation to join us. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, we're getting lots of thanks and awesome. So it was a good choice to invite you and a wonderful choice for you to accept our invitation as well.
It's been my pleasure, and everybody please know that you, even if your well-being gets off a bit of track, just say that's life, move forward, and show that compassion towards yourself.
Okay. Julia, I do have one question for you, and that is, do you have an online class?
So the answer is the Center for the Advancement of Well-Being, every day from noon to 12:30, Monday through Thursday, there are mindfulness practices. Those tend to be meditations. On Friday, I do a 12 to 12:20. And so under the Center for the Advancement of Well-Being, if you go to resources or events, so it's Fridays from 12 to 12:20, because for me, that's kind of a nice short way to go, oh yeah, I'll get up and do something. And the other thing is moving your spine, and movement not just helps your body, it rejuvenates the brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm just looking, we put a website in the chat room of being wellbeing, one word, .gmu.edu. Would that be the correct website to look at that? You're muted. Just somehow you got muted, Julia. Okay.
Yes. That's the right one.
Okay. Very good. That is all the questions that I have for you. Again, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you one more question, and I have problems pronouncing this one, so correct me if I'm wrong. Is Qigong considered exercise?
The answer is yes. There are lots of different forms of exercise. Qigong actually and Tai Chi are both recommended for lots of reasons, both by the National Institutes of Health and Harvard Medical and lots of others. So yes, having a balance of something like that for flexibility and so forth, and having aerobic exercises is actually preferred. So having both is good.
Okay, very good. With that, I will say again, thank you for joining us today. Everyone is thoroughly very much appreciative of this program, and it looks like in the comments we may be coming back to you to do something like this again in another format. Julia, thank you so much for sharing your morning with us today. And thank you to all of our presenters, to the team that works behind the scenes and helps us to provide our virtual events. I couldn't do it without you. Just a reminder that Boomer and Beyond Academy has 2 more presentations next week. The next one is Tuesday, September 21st at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when the subject will be Social Security, Understanding Your Benefits, and one more on Thursday, September 23rd, also at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, on Medicare 101, Understanding Your Medicare Benefits. If you've not already registered for these programs, there's a link in the chat box, or you can go to www.aarp.org/boomer, B as in boy, OOMER, Academy, ACADEMY, one word, and you can register for us there. There is also a link in the chat box for a survey. We always like to know what you think about the programs that we've presented here today. And because at AARP, we care about what you care about, any information that you would care to share with us about things you'd like to see in the future. And I suspect you're going to be seeing more of Julia as well. Hold on one second. Let me see if there's anything else in the comments. I think we are good. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Trudy Murata for AARP Virginia. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for sharing your morning with us. Have a great day.